Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Shaman Radio Podcast. This is John Rasmussen, and I have a very special guest today, George Mullichall. And I think this is going to be an extremely valuable episode. After seeing his own child struggling with attention and focus, George became the CEO and co-founder of MindSpring Innovations. And on his path from Harvard and Oxford through multiple tech ventures, and becoming a publisher and global keynote speaker, George has always kept a thread of service and education front and center. And after seeing the staggering effects of attention loss in kids, adults, even corporate and sports teams, his company MindSpring validated a 125% attention improvement in just 8 weeks using their AI cognitive training tools across schools, hospitals, and more. MindSpring now reaches all ages with 10 platform verticals and a cognitive backbone powered by 100 plus AI tools. It's not just ed tech, it's really the operating system for upgrading the mind and spirit at scale, which is a theme that ties directly in with healing and growth, which is what we're all about here. So, I'd like to welcome you, George. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. And I have to say that what really intrigues me about this is, as all tools throughout human history, they can be used for destructive purposes or constructive, right? Used to help people, hurt people. I think a lot of people are worried about AI and its effects and have been about technology since televisions, right, in terms of attention and focus. And I love the idea that, you're essentially fighting fire with fire. You're using the technology to improve human attention and focus, which I'm just super excited about. So I'd love to have you just tell us a little bit more about, how you got to where you did, and how you started MindSpring, and where you're going with it next. And we'll talk a little bit about all of that. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much. I really appreciate for the time here with you. And as you rightly said, we have two choices. Either we heal the world or we destruct the world. And, that's a clear choice that we have. And here we are looking not only to heal the world, but to create leaders and the generation next that can actually think on their own, plan on their own, and be creative to create a better world for all of us. So that's where we are. So that's where we started. We started about a year and a half back when one of my classmates came home for a drink, and he was in Chicago. So he said, "Hey George, I'm in town. Can I come over?" And I said, "Yeah, come over. Let's have a drink at home." And so he landed up at home with a bottle of scotch, and we went to our basement to have a drink, and we were just chatting around. And then he said, we were talking about our children, and I got my son Kennedy, who's now Penn State doing his engineering, and then his son Preston, who is also in college. And we were talking about their childhood, and Brian, my co-founder, he said when Preston was growing up, he had a lot of challenges. He was in school and he had to take medication. He had mood swings, and he used to fidget from one end of the class to the other end by the end of the day. And we used to get teachers' notes, and we had to get a coach to assist and things that way. So that was the beginning. And then I did at the same time think about my own son, Kennedy. When he was growing up, he would probably sit on his math lesson or math homework, which would probably take 10-15 minutes to almost an hour or two. And once while I was walking by and checking on him, he looked up at me and said, I said, "Hey, Kennedy, how's your homework going on?" And he asked, "Hey, Daddy, can you see the spider up there?" I looked at the spider, and he asked me, "Why is the spider not falling down?" So I had no answer, I mean, of course, I had an answer, but the thing was, he was supposed to be doing his math homework, and he is actually thinking, why is the spider not falling down? Because the spider is heavier than air, and it should fall down. Then I gave him the science of, how the spider's feet are sticky and this thing. An hour later, I'm walking back and I said, "Hey, Kennedy, are you not done with your math homework?" And then he looks at me in the eye and asks me a question. Eddie, I was thinking about the spider, and if you can dream and I can dream, can the spider dream when it's up there? And I said, "Well, I'm not a specialist, but why isn't your math homework finished?" And he said, "Yeah, I want to finish it, Daddy, but I'm also thinking." So both kids, right? I mean, one is my son. He is perfectly fine, but he had time. He needed time to focus, and Preston had challenges. So while we were sitting and talking, and then I told Brian, "Hey Brian, I think I know about an Indian firm." Who has done some research on attention, and I believe they are able to uh, actually train attention back to children. It's not like attention is lost. They have done some research about 8-10 years, and they've been able to show how attention is a skill that's trainable. It's like a muscle. So if you can learn how to ride a bicycle once, you don't have to learn bicycle riding ever again. If you train attention as a muscle once, you don't have to train attention ever again. Then he said, "Hey, that's not possible. How is it possible? If that was possible, then why is the world not using it?" And so we had our own debate and all that. But we decided, hey, if it is, then Brian did say, "Listen, George, if that what they're saying is true, I'll be customer number one." Okay. And that's what triggered where we are today, because I said, if you're going to be customer number one, then I think we need to look at it. And he said, forget me, George. There are 7 million parents in the US with children in ADHD, with children with attention and focus, that are looking for solutions other than medication, looking for solutions other than a private coach, because many parents can't afford it. 95% of the people can't afford private coaches for their children. I'm one of the lucky ones, but that if we can have this as a solution, I think we should explore it. And that was when we said, you know what, let's give it a shot and see what we can do, because we both are extremely busy, very successful people, and we had no business in trying to figure out whether we need to solve attention as a solution. But we said, if it can help others, let's give it a shot. And that's where we started, John.
That's amazing. And so you were able, I take it, to get some funding, and then you somehow, what made you decide, to use AI? How did that process develop?
Yes. So what basically happened was, when we realized, and we did some due diligence, we visited India, we saw the tech, and we said, you know what, this is trainable. Attention is trainable. If it is trainable, why isn't it that the world is taken it and gone ahead with it? And we said, is there any other global studies that are there that shows that this is trainable? Published data from Harvard, from Stanford, so many universities are there. So research is going on across the world. And we were shocked to see that there were more than about 30 odd publications from 1990s to late 2024 saying attention is trainable. There are 10 layers of attention, sustained attention, guided attention, auditory attention, visual attention, and all these areas. People are, all you need is to train it, and evidence is there. So we said, okay, if you need to take it to market, we just can't do it in the classroom setting where we bring people and train them on attention and then take it. I mean, classroom setting is not going to take it to mass market. So how do we do it? And then we saw the Harvard labs and MIT labs coming with cognitive training and using cognitive games. And we said, okay, so why don't we use cognitive games? And then we brought in, one of our AI specialists, Dr. Murthy, who's a globally renowned AI, data scientist and leading researcher from Johns Hopkins. He does PhD from Johns Hopkins. So he came in and said, I can actually make this workable through a bunch of AI tools so that you can have any child or any adult from anywhere in the world come inside and do the application, and the AI tool and AI coach will assist. And then we bring in a human coach to actually, cross check and verify and validate. And I think we have a model. And we said, well, that sounds like a plan, but to bring all this together, you need millions of dollars, and you just can't go back and say, how we go about it. And then you need a marketing team because you need to actually go to the rest of the world. You need, a product management team. You need a technology team and all that. So we said, well, there's a mission and there is something that we can actually impact the world, and not only the American world but the rest of the world. And let's get started on it. And that's how MindSpring Innovations was born. And we started putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So we had the AI tech coming inside. Then we said, well, we need more people. And so we asked one of our professors from Oxford University, Professor Lalit, Professor Lalit, this is what our plan is. What do you think? And he said, this is mind blowing, because this is like you're defining a new category. Nobody has ever done this before. This is a whole new category, and I'm willing to be part of it and work with you people to take this forward. And so we got Professor Lalit on board, who was instrumental in defining how we go about and build this entire category through the putting the steps and guidelines in places. And then we said, okay, now we have got the category, we have got the product, and we said first we launch off for the children, because that's where we started. And every parent we speak to, every parent, and we ask them what is one of the challenges and pain points that they have, and they will say the focus and training and attention of the children, because they're seeing that the children's attention is going down. Now, if you step a moment back, John, let's step a moment back. What is actually happening here, right? In 1990s and early 2000 and 2010, when Facebook and all the Meta and TikTok came on board, they were making money only when a user consumes an app or ad and that they see, right? I mean, the more somebody is spending time on Facebook or Instagram and they see a program, the more time they spend, an ad pops in and they make money because saying that, okay, I've shown this ad to somebody. And right now we have data scientists and people sitting at TikTok and Meta in large conference rooms and buildings, siloed, looking for ways to increase how somebody spends one more extra second on their platform, one more extra second, and they're paid in millions of dollars, $800,000. Information architect and retaining architect and all that. So $1.2 million if you go back through the salaries. These are PhD scientists sitting there trying to see how do they increase the audience to spend one more extra second. And what does a child do with it? I mean, you're sitting with a force and scientists sitting on the other side, and an innocent child looking at a game or this one, and they have no way to know that this is deliberately planned and inserted so that the child's attention is taken out. Now, what happens to the children on the other side, right? So when the children, or even we adults, we are looking at an Instagram, or reel or something, we want a dopamine effect. So we are looking for an instant gratification. We see something, we like it, we just press like, and immediately another thing comes, we like it. And before we know, half an hour is gone, 45 minutes is gone, 1 hour is gone, doom scrolling.
Absolutely.
So what we actually do there is we just click on it, and every time the mind of our human mind, the attention is like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and another ad comes, and another video comes, and another video comes. So we are compressing our attention and training it to only focus for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, one thing. Our deep work, about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, is gone because we have taken that deep work and started training it on this one and spending hours together on doom scrolling. For example, if a teenager today is getting 270 notifications per day, 270 notifications per day, That means every 3 minutes he's looking at his phone. And every 3 minutes, so where does he have the time to actually put his education and mind in a notebook or a school science and see how he can score marks, because every 3 minutes he's being disturbed. And so that's where we are. And we said, you know what, this is not a small problem. This is a pandemic, a huge pandemic that is going to, hit us within the next 10 years if we don't take control of it and if we don't stop it. And that's where we are, today, trying to see how we can stop this, how we can take our minds back, how we can train our children back, how we can provide them a better future.
That's amazing. It is. It's huge, I think. And so I'm so glad that you're doing this. This is a huge service for really humanity. And what crosses my mind is, so we're always going to have the effect you just talked about. Like I don't think that's ever going to be sort of legislated out of our lives. It's only going to continue to be there. And so your company is now tasked with countering those effects, right? Teaching the mind to focus for longer than 30 seconds, teaching people to go deeper, right? And so are you seeing that this is a kind of battle, essentially? Like, it would be one thing if none of the social media stuff existed, you came out with this idea. It'd be amazing. I mean, just like you said, your kid was thinking about a spider. It had nothing to do with the phone, right? And this is also, a sort of a pandemic, right? Just the ADHD and all this kind of stuff. And so, in and of itself, teaching attention and focus, that muscle, is a challenge. And like exercising or any other muscle type building, it's critical for quality of life and for success and productivity and all the wonderful, and just well-being, just fundamental. Think of meditation, right? Think of the ancient practices of meditation and shamanic journeying, and this is what these things are for as well. And now you've got you're competing with the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the TikToks, and TV even now is sort of, streaming. So it's kind of doing the same thing. And so we're surrounded by it. And I know there's movements for people to, keep their children's exposure to these things minimal. But it's impossible. Even if you're a household that doesn't allow it, the kid gets into a group of other kids and they're passing around the phone, and, so it's inevitable. What are you seeing in terms of that sort of battle? In other words, does it seem like your company, your approach, is I know you've got stats on the effectiveness in terms of measured testing and so on and so forth, a 125% increase and so on. Are you seeing sort of anecdotal evidence of that with study groups or people that are working with your product in terms of, even outside of the test, are they less prone to then be interested in the phone? Like, in other words, is it literally like pulling them, not just in terms of stats, but is it changing their quality of life?
It is. Okay. So one of the areas of attention is impulse control. So you are being trained on increasing your impulse control. And what Meta and TikTok and everybody's doing is they're trying to reduce that impulse control. So, if you're able to...
I bought so many things on Facebook. I totally understand. It's a real problem.
Yeah. I mean, you see something you like, you click, right? And click, and then suddenly you have a profile in Facebook thing. So what we have seen is children who undergo the program, even adults who undergo the program, are building that impulse control, and they know, listen, I don't want to do this. I just need to stop it, and I just need to get back to my work. I just need to, get into my, focus area, my focus zone, because we are rebuilding that ability of a child or an adult to increase their level of focus and attention on their regular work, and they
Right.
know that this is something that is, taking my attention away, and we coach them, and we tell them, even you take half an hour away a day, that is, you're talking about, in a year, about 50 days going inside, into this thing, and then imagine in 10 years, this
Amazing.
is it, and et cetera, et cetera. So they understand that. And we say, if you're going to think, now the big question sometimes always I'm asked when I'm giving a speech is, I've used internet and I've used computers to learn, and I've used everything. So you mean to say that I need to stop using computers and I need to stop using my phone and everything because I've learned everything through it. And there's a stark difference between consuming and you being used. Today, what is happening is you are being used as a customer
Right.
by Meta and TikTok and other social media, and they keep making money out of you without even you knowing it.
Right. Right. Of course. Yes.
So it's not you consuming it to improve your skill. You're at the other end, it is consuming you. And so as long as you know that whether you're consuming or you're being consumed, there's a stark difference. And the minute you know that you're being consumed, you know how to take control back and, learn to live your life.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I mean, that's all about empowerment, and I think, and the power of influences. And I talk about this all the time. Probably, someone once asked the Dalai Lama, "What's the most important thing?" And he said, "It's who you hang around with because of the power of influence." Right. So
Right.
discernment and influence, and it sounds like you're using that neuroplasticity, natural, neuroplasticity concept to increase discipline, essentially, and discernment, which I think is just it's valuable not only for learning, but it's valuable outside of learning and just day-to-day interactions, right? Just what you focus your attention on. Energy flows where attention goes. We've heard all these sayings, and so I think it's amazing. And I wanted to ask you, so people have links, and people go to your fundamental website to start with is what?
So we have Attention Hero as a fundamental website. We do have Attentive Kids. So we have got two for children. We have two special areas. One is for children with ADHD or that is physician confirmed attention issues. We have something a website known as Brightly Wired. So Brightly Wired is for those kids, and for normal kids who don't have any, attention issues, but the parents feel that the attention is draining. We have attentivekids.com. So in attentivekids.com, they have there. And one of the things we realized, John, is that when the parents came on board, they were doing for the children, and then their parents came back and said, hang on, we ourselves have problems with attention. We ourselves are doom scrolling. So,
Absolutely.
so it's like one household, two problems. Apart from the children, we have the adults. So in both these brightly wired .ai and attentivekids.com, we are also got tools for parents. So the parent is able to increase their attention, and then we have family cognitive games, so the parent and the child can play together, and they can see how their attention scores are increasing on their dashboard, and they're able to increase their level of attention.
That's amazing. So you've got all of it covered, and it's never too late for adults. We have just as much neuroplasticity as kids, I would imagine, to some extent. And so people, can go to those links. They can Google you. They can Google MindSpring, and they can find all those that way as well, I take it. And so somebody goes, they sign up for this for one of these plans, I take it, and how much time would someone expect to put in this training? In other words, how much per day or whatever it is? What's the recommended amount of effort?
So what we have seen in very successful programs where we are able to see more than 125% growth is 15 minutes a day is maximum we require. 10 minutes is good, 15 minutes a day. Because all these cognitive games are like 60 seconds, in 60 seconds, and you play only 3 games and then you make some notes and pick up the skill. What we are doing is the attention, we're increasing the attention through a habit. So every day you improve, and slowly you pick up this attention skills and habit as a thing. And in about 2 months, you see more than about 125% increase. Then sometimes parents stay with us for almost 6 months because they just want to make sure they see the improvement in the child. And they visibly see the improvement in the child. We have had even school teachers come back to us saying that in Germany we had put this in one of the schools there. They are born international schools. And we had a parent come back to us after 2 months and said, I have never seen such improvement in my child over the last 18 months. I had a private coach, and in the last 2 months, my child has stopped getting teachers' notes, is coming back and doing homework on time, is not questioning back too much. I'm actually thrilled with what has happened. And so we have got examples of parents who have had phenomenal success over US, over Europe and Asia, and today we have schools in these markets have reached us to us directly. So in the Middle East, we are speaking to a 60 school chain. In the UK, we have got a school chain that's got 5,000 schools in 22 countries. Actually getting into a joint venture with us. We have got schools in India, schools in Philippines, Australia, Europe and the US, all coming to us. And these are private schools initially because for them they can take decisions faster. But over the next year or so, we'll start rolling out to the K-12s and to the other schools in the US.
Amazing. And I would imagine any organization, right? Especially corporations and so on that are interested in productivity, and it's a competitive world out there, would benefit greatly from offering this. So I think that's great. Now, what are you doing? Or let me just ask it this way, what's next? What's your vision? How are you getting this out there besides podcasts like mine? What would you like to see happening? What's next? I take it the company is going to have to grow. You're probably hiring people and so on. But tell us where you see this going.
We see this going to all parts of the world. We see it also. So what has happened, John, is that while we were working on the children's part, we were speaking to investors, and investors came back saying, "Hang on a second, can you actually guys do this for adults?" And because adult office productivity is a mess, we see people's getting into meetings. They are half in the meeting, their mind is somewhere else. You can see people speaking to each other, but they're physically there or verbally faces there, but their mind is wandering somewhere else. So is it possible to do office level productivity through this? And we said yes, of course we can. I had a mayor of one of the towns. I'm not mentioning because he didn't want me to mention, but he was telling me the nighttime productivity of my workers, the nighttime product is only 32%. Amazing. And he said, if you can do something to increase this by even 5-10%, I'm game. I will sign up for my nighttime productivity. So we are seeing this as an adult tool for the adult people in offices and complexes. And so we said, let's set up, Zone In, and that's how we set up the second platform known as Zone In for zoning in and having deep work productivity. And so we have large companies, actually working with us in Europe, in US, and other parts of the world. GE and all that are enrolled. Siemens are enrolled into the program. Then we had adults coming 50 years above, coming to us and talking to us in terms of, can you help us increase our cognitive ability, because we don't want to land up with Alzheimer's or any other areas. And we said, yes, we can of course increase your attention. We are not doing anything else. So we came up with Stay Sharp Daily. That's the third platform for 50 years, so that they could go inside, they could look at it and improve their cognition, improve their mental ability to be sharp, and so that they can. And that's got a whole bunch of journaling and other healthy activities in that tool. While we were doing this, we had a chat with hospitals, and hospitals came back to us saying, our hospitals are overwhelmed with doctors at junior level working not 8 hours, 15 hours, 16 hours because of shortages. We have got nurses who are working 12 to 15 hours, and our problem is after 7-8 hours, their attention goes down and they can make careless mistakes that is having huge consequences. Can you train our doctors? Can you train things? So we came up with Clarity Care as a tool to help with these doctors and thing. And then we went. So while we were speaking to consumers one after the other, we were seeing that this is a tool that's required for multi-level. I mean, so the transportation sector was a huge area. There are more than 500,000 transportation deaths happening in the world just because a driver is careless. How do you ensure that the say UPS and Amazon drive deliveries and all these large companies, at least where we can have a unified training program that they could think. So we came up with something for our transportation workers on how to improve their attention focus. And like that, we did it for athletes. 80% is mental and 20% is physical. If you are not there mentally, you will not win it. So how do you increase that? And then military command focus is for the military, because you need to ensure that even during the dire circumstance, you're mentally agile and sharp. And how do we do that? So we came up with we have about now 11 platforms, and I think it'll go to another 12, 15 platforms. So when you ask about our vision, we see us in all areas of life, all industries where we are there, because attention is the foundation for every skill enhancement. So if you don't have attention, whatever skill you have, it's tethering down, it's getting lost. So if you focus and improve your attention, everything else will come back there. And
yeah, and it's amazing because I'm so excited for this. I think this is incredibly important for humanity at large. And of course, I was an engineer and practicing shaman and yogi, and I did all the spiritual practices. I still do. I'm in church. I'm doing prayer. I'm doing things every day. And it just automatically, immediately, it's like, this is a lot of what those traditions have always, because it's not just mental, it becomes spiritual. It becomes this, we're sort of we're integrated mind, body, spirit, right? So it's, and as I said, where attention goes, energy flows. Our susceptibility to non-physical influences is just as critical as mentally for productivity and so on and so forth, right? So a lot of these ancient disciplines were developed to do this, right? But you have to meditate, 4 hours a day for 18 years in the forest, right? And it's like not a lot of people are going to do that anymore. And so I'm immediately thinking, wow, I would love to see every spiritual institution, organization, school, sort of telling people about this as well, because everybody's on a phone. It doesn't. There's very few people that have, other than the Amish, for example, right? But you can still get run over by one of their horse buggies, right? So it's not like there's anybody out there that's doing like zero technology. So I'm excited because, man, I'm just so glad you reached out because I appreciate this opportunity to share this. I mean, with my own clients, with people who come to me for advice, with anyone that I'm, happen to be influential for. It's like I love that I can point them to something so well thought out, so technologically legitimate and research wise, medically, neuro neurobiology and all these things, neuroscience. And so I can see that this is going to be a very, very important thing and growing, like you said, everywhere. I can't see any place this would not be useful in some way. And I love that it's only 15 minutes a day. I mean, that is easy, easy, like for someone who's spent hours a day meditating or chanting or doing rituals and ceremonies of all kinds. It's like, I think about getting on a little game, essentially it sounds like for 15 minutes. And it's like, wow, I can do that, you know. So I'm going to go, I'm gonna get on your website. I'm going to download some of these things for myself and my family. I know everyone can benefit from this, especially the students, the teenagers and the younger students. And so I really am grateful that you have, that you found me or we found each other here because this is big. This is really big. So
Thank you.
yeah. So, if there's certainly if there's anything else you'd like to say before we close up here, please do. But I think this has been a really valuable discussion, and I'm really excited to help people become aware of of MindSpring innovations and all these products you offer, and that are going to continue to grow. It sounds like and reach new avenues, and yeah,
Thank
I
you,
love it.
John. Thank you, John. So, three things. One is we'll definitely give you and your followers a discount of 50% on any of the products that are there. So I'll send you all the details that they can look on board. And probably for the first 2 months, we'll also give it completely free so that they can use it. I want them to experience it because that experience is key for them to start winning and taking forward. So that's one. The second thing is what we also discovered was parents are highly stressed. So when in our conversation with parents, we saw that there's a whole bunch of stress level that are there at multiple levels, even in the office, even at multiple levels. And so we built an AI coach that is helping the children, but also helping the parents. So if a parent is at 2 o'clock is having a burnout or issues, because when you're working with children with ADHD, it's usually the mother who takes the majority of the stress because the mother is more linked, and then she has to manage a child, manage the income. They spend 7 times more money than a regular child, and they have to manage the income, then they have to manage the child's tantrums and all that. So by the time it's the end of the day, the stress level for a mother goes 9.5 out of 10, whereas for a regular parent at home is like 5 or 6 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. So that's on one side. So we have built tools to remove stress for adults, including parents.
Amazing.
Yeah, because this is part of the program. We realized that one of the things we said is, what, and stress leads to cortisol. Cortisol leads to a heart attack and a whole bunch of other areas, right? So we said, can we use this as a tool to reduce stress for parents and things? So we built a bunch of tools. We'll share that with you, and we are seeing that's going to help the adult population, the parents, and everybody who's having the stress, including in that office program. We saw that there's a whole bunch of office stress. They go to the AI coach there and they speak to the coach and say, listen, my boss fired me today, how do I respond? Or that colleague of mine was snickering at me, bullying me. How do I respond? I'm not getting a promotion. Should I resign? These actual people who never go and speak to anybody else is speaking to an AI coach that's been trained on how to answer and give the right solution. And it's all, we do not know who and all, but what we are saying is they go back and they're trained to give that AI coach support for the adults. So we will share that with you. We see this as a helpful. AI is helpful. It's going to change the world. And there'll be a lot of people who lose a lot of jobs, and we see that they can also be reskilled and retrained, because the future belongs to those who can adapt to change and who can adapt to reskilling. And so that's another big query we see in the chats coming up, saying, will I lose my job? What will I do? How do I reskill? And we are seeing all that being trained and removing the stress for adults as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I can personally attest to how good these AI coach tools. I created one myself, religious based, essentially. Like my shamanic work, and I'm blown away. Like, I just like, this is better than I could have ever answered these things. And so, it's the best. It's the best of humanity available. And the fact that your company is using this technology to bring out the best of humanity, right? Like the light side of AI, of this tool. It's everything, because when it all comes down to it, life always has contrast. There's pain and there's pleasure. There's struggles, there's ease. And it's, ideally 80-20, good days versus tough days. Bad things versus good things versus bad things. But, anything over 50%, you're winning. And so, I love that, you have focused on that. Stress, of course, number one, health issue, period. It causes all the things, right? And so I love that you're addressing that with your tools. Again, I'm a huge fan, and I can't wait to share it. And thank you again for coming on and sharing this really, really important, hugely valuable technology, the use of AI particularly, and all of the science behind attention and focus and stress. And so, yeah, thank you so much. I'll look forward to getting all that information from you. I'll put it on the, all of my posts and links, and we'll have that available to our listeners. And absolutely. I hope people share this. The most important thing I can think of sharing right now as widely as possible, honestly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. So it's a pleasure speaking with you, and warm greetings and blessings to all your listeners.
Thank you. Likewise to you and your family. Thank you.